Alright everybody, hello and welcome to episode number 32 of FinalBossTV, your in-game rating show. My name is Adam K, aka Bay, and I will be your host for this Retribution ride this evening. I had it ready to go, I had a soundboard up real quick, so I gotta do it anyway. The Paladins are ready, they're all here. We have Morgeine from Envy and Bear of the Ninth Order, and of course, I think Anna's still here. I don't know, let's find out real quick. Episode 32. I think we're good.
I was thinking about skipping this show because it's just a spec that I don't care about at all.
Yeah, I know.
I figured I might as well show up.
You think you might as well show up? But again, there's Anna over here, our awesome co-host. Hi, Anna.
Hey, hey.
And this was tweeted out a little while ago. I got to bring this up and bring credit to. This is a mod from my own personal chat, Schmitz. He had doctored this up for episode 32. It was gonna be. Anna co-hosting with Anafielle, with co-hosts Rageafelle, and God, I can't remember what the fourth name was going to be. Niceafelle or something. You're gonna have all your four spectrums.
No, that's a myth.
That's a myth.
That person doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah, we were gonna do the Ret episode, and it was just gonna be like Bay and my face on two different screens while I just talked to myself for the whole time. But then I figured it might be a little more interesting with some other people to bounce some ideas off of.
Yeah, we couldn't go the full 9 for all of the Anna, but that's totally okay. I think everyone always posts on YouTube. This is another Ret Paladin episode because all Anna's talking about is Retribution Paladins, and I'm like,
yeah,
no.
Everyone's like, every episode of Final Boss is a Ret Paladin episode. Why do you need a whole Ret Paladin episode?
Yeah, exactly. But then also joining us, let's go around the table here again, over the pond, both of our guests today. So they'll be running a little late into the evening, but we're all gamers. Who doesn't go to bed until 4 a.m. anyway? We have Mr. Bear from the Ninth Order. Hello, sir. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yep, this should be a lot of fun. And then, of course, hopefully we can get through his accent this evening, but Morgeine of Envy and the Beard is here. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Are you ready for
Nice
this?
to be here. I'm totally ready for this.
We brought up a little bit of the stuff in the pre-show call, and I started talking about math and theory, and these two guys just didn't shut up. So hopefully we can keep them under control and keep their Ret Paladin knowledge contained.
Contained into 90 minutes of awesome. That's what it's going to be.
Exactly. Do you want to show off the shirt, Anna? I'll just get it out of the way real quick. Yeah,
definitely. Going with my Buff Pally shirt. If you've seen any of my BlizzCon photos, I'm wearing this shirt in pretty much all of the BlizzCon photos that I took with Blues. Yep. Just to make sure that they knew exactly what they needed to be doing to my favorite class, which is buffing it.
Yes. No, exactly. So
anyway, let's hear a little bit. Enough about me. Honestly, that's all you guys hear about every week. Let's hear a little bit from our guests. I know we've got some paladins who I hear from all the time here today. Morgeine, let's hear about you. What is it that you do? Where do you raid? And where can we find more about you?
So I'm Morgeine from Envy. They currently ranked 4th guild in the world. I'm playing Ret Paladin, of course, and you can find me on Twitter at morgeine.envy. And that's it.
That's it?
Yeah, only the 4th guild in the world, you know. Just
only
that's
the 4th.
Uh-huh. And Bear, I see you all the time on forums. Where can we find more about you, and where do you raid?
Well, I raid in 9th Order, 100 and something, 14, I think, World 25. I'm always on MMO Champion. People can PM me there if they want to know me more. I'm always adding people to in-game. So.
Well, I think you don't downplay the fact. We brought this up when I was making the show and figuring out like where the guilds are from and stuff like that. And everyone always asks, you know, and wonders where these people come from and whatnot. And so Anna is 34th US and I'm 37th. But we both killed after Christmas. We killed Gareth after Christmas. Yeah. Now your 9th Order is 82nd EU, but you guys killed it December 7th, if I recall.
17th, I think.
17th. So there are so many EU guilds. It is ridiculous. Like the time frame from the first to where you guys were, an 82 guilds did it. And we killed it weeks after you, and we're 37th and 34th US.
So the nice thing about raiding in the US is that you can make your numbers sound smaller.
I got
Oh, yeah, we're US 34.
Well, we had so much like guild attrition, and all these guilds died and stuff. Yeah.
I remember being so excited when we hit the US top 50 because I only raid in a 12-hour guild, just strict 12 hours. And I was like, oh man, US top 50, like I'm feeling good. And then I look at all the EU guilds and I'm like, these guys are so much more serious than we are. Just across the board. So it's good to have you guys on here.
No, absolutely. And it's a mixture too, because one of you raids such at a high level and all the time until you basically pass out the keyboard. And then Bear still, like, I mean, from my perspective, in the US side, you would have been like almost top 25. So with your time frame that you killed Garrosh, so it's pretty awesome. And one of you digs into forums a lot more than the other, so we have lots of stuff to talk about. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure everyone knows, because we've gotten some flack before, like, oh, these people don't raid enough, blah, blah, blah. But no, that's not the case. We do go through a lot of strenuous work here to make sure that people that are coming on the show are going to give you some great information. But I guess before we get into everything else, I wanted to talk real quick what you guys do outside of raiding right now. You guys have both been on farm for a long time, obviously. Morgeine for a much longer. So what's like the real world like for you now in this expansion lull? We'll go with you first, Morg.
For me, outside raiding, actually I took a break after progress was over, and I'm taking my time off because I will be actually joining the army in 4 days. Yeah, it's mandatory here in Greece, so.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just trying out other games, other MMOs, mainly gaming, and apart from that, I'm mostly a music lover. I'm a techno lover, actually, so...
Which you were out last night,
Shocked,
actually.
shocked, sorry, shocked. An EU video game player who loves techno? No.
Of course.
I'm just
Detroit techno. And that's it.
How long are you going to be in service, by the way? Like, is it going to it's like an interview with Warlords, is it?
It's for 8 months. From 9, I will do 8, and I'm gonna actually be a cook. So in the army. So yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be strange.
Are you gonna be able to play Warlords when you are like on base or wherever? Are you have time
after the first month, I'll be most of the days out, so I will definitely be on the beta, and I will definitely play Warlords for sure.
Oh, well, good. Well, at least it won't impact you too much. That's fine. Good stuff.
How about you, Bear? What you been up to lately?
Well, in terms of the actual in-game stuff, we're boosting people, which always is fun. Making fun of people dying for no reason. Outside of the game, I'm in between jobs. I'm applying to join rather the air traffic control class, which is gonna be 9 months in the US. So, well, if I get accepted, that is. So, that's something for the future, I guess.
You guys both have really big, like, real life changes coming right now. That's crazy. I just host this show every Sunday and go edit Monday through Friday. Like, I don't know. That's wild.
I sit around with my evenings playing RPGs, and I'm like, I'm moving, in 3 weeks. Haven't packed anything yet. Don't even know where I'm going yet. So I'm like, maybe I should look for apartments. No, I'm actually going to turn on this Jeanne d'Arc and just play it for 5 hours instead. That's basically my life.
You have been playing a little bit of that game.
Yeah, it's actually been fun because I wanted to stream, since I can't really stream WoW, and outside of raids, there's not really anything worth streaming. I wanted to try to get into it with a different game, so I've been kind of having fun with that and streaming this, like, strategy RPG that I've been playing. I tried Hitbox last night, actually, the service that's not Twitch, and it had a really bad connection for the people who were watching. They said that it was cutting in and out a lot, which is kind of a bummer, but the fact that it had no delay was really nice. There was like maybe a 5-second delay between what I was seeing and what people on the stream were seeing, and that if that was a Twitch option, it would
Well,
be so nice.
not to go off on a tangent before we start getting into the judgmental stuff here with Paladins. As far as I know, they don't use IRC hitbox. They don't use IRC, which Twitch still uses IRC. That's why there's a delay from broadcast to chat, then back to us, of course. Hitbox uses it's all embedded.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that's not why. I'm pretty sure the delay is built in on purpose because it's not there on some streams and it is there on other streams. They make the delay higher because of turn-based games. There was a problem with that, but that's just it. It was just annoying to have like a minute between chatting with people, and then it's really nice to be able to actually respond in real time to what people are saying. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how that works. I mean, Twitch is always upgrading stuff around the back end. They've obviously got a whole lot bigger than they expected at first, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Streaming is still very young.
And competition would be good.
Yeah, absolutely. It would.
I would prefer to use Twitch. Twitch is a great service, but competition is good.
So, I want to dive right in here. We had a little bit of your real-life backstory and stuff, a little more about you and what you do on the internet, but I want to know, and so does chat room, so some backstory, some memory lane on where you were with Retribution, how long you've been playing a Paladin. So we'll go around the table here. I'll start with Bear. When did you start playing Ret, and why?
I started playing Paladin at the end of Burning Crusade. I didn't play Ret until Firelands as main, off-spec often from all the way from Uldor.
What was your main spec then?
I actually played Protection in Uldor, and then I moved to Holy in ICC, which was my main specs. So I changed away from Legendaries all the time. So that's always fun.
Excellent. So when did you start playing your Paladin, Morgeine?
I started playing my Paladin back in Burning Crusade. He was my alt. I was playing Druid back then, and I mainly geared him up for Mount Hyjal raid because my guild needed a Paladin for, the trash. That's awesome trash, yeah. And and yeah, I had to level him. By accident actually, I switched to Paladin on 1 month after the launch of Wrath of the Lich King.
Okay.
I was Protection for the first tier at least, and I was raiding casually with some friends, and that's it.
So both of you look like you were already playing Paladin for a long time and then went to Retribution after playing other specs? You didn't just like, I'm going to roll, swap and main swap to a Ret Paladin. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. If you're raiding seriously, I mean, there have been times when Ret's been viable and times when Ret hasn't, so.
Well, yeah, and we'll get into that.
Do I get to answer this question today?
Yeah, we'll get into that. That's
because my history... Yeah. I mean, my history is the same as Bear. Well, not the same. Similar to Bear's. And I think that a lot of Ret Paladins have a very similar history, where we were different specs before. I was main spec Prot, as people who've known me before I was a Ret Paladin know. I was main spec Prot for a long time. Back in BlizzCon a long time ago, I was all about tanking and asking questions about Vengeance and stuff. I actually didn't go main spec Ret until T12, when Blizzard started to move away from 3-tank fights. That was when I joined my pretty serious guild. I wouldn't say hardcore, but I would say fairly serious rather than raiding casually with friends. And Blizzard started to move away from 3-tank fights, and I think that's when a lot of tanks started to play with their DPS off-specs more, and more than one of us ended up switching to Ret full-time, and that's when I went Ret, was in Firelands. Well, in Dragon Soul, but I was mostly Ret in Firelands.
Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not completely devoid of the Paladin. My only other level 90 is a Prot Paladin. Who's also off-spec Holy. I've never played Ret except when I leveled him, I guess, but I think I actually leveled mostly in dungeons, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I just, I hit the buttons that are off cooldown, so you guys obviously know a whole lot more about this than me, but it's my only other 90, nothing else. I mean, I don't play a whole lot of the game outside of raiding right now, so... Yep.
Don't tell them our secrets, Bay, about button mashing and
just
stuff.
Just hit the buttons that are off cooldown. Oh,
don't do that.
Sorry. No. So, what keeps you playing your Paladin, you guys? Like, what? I mean, you've played other classes, I'm sure, at this point, especially being at higher end rating. You've probably played other classes or have like your alt runs or whatever, or have your other alt classes. But what keeps you coming back to? And then I hope all of you are going to play your Paladin going into Warlocks of Draenor, though. Correct?
I hope so.
I hope so. Yeah. But Bear, what about you? What keeps you coming back to your Paladin?
Well, in general, in like MMOs or games, I've gravitated against playing hybrid specs or specs that have utility. So I guess that's what keeping me playing Retribution or Paladin. I like having the tools to make a difference apart from just doing the mindless DPS job.
Yeah, I completely agree.
That's for druids and for
monks,
right?
My alt and druid as well.
Okay, and Morg, what about you?
I'm like always playing hybrid classes. I went from a druid to a red paladin, prot and then a red paladin, and I just like the fact that you can actually assist the raid by healing, the hands of protection, hand of salvation, etc. I just like the general DPS and side support role, like something like that. Okay. I'm totally into this, like in every game.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's that moment when you're in, like, I like that stupid stuff, like when you're in a Hand of Sack rotation, or hopefully Devo rotations are gonna go away, so I'm not gonna mention those. But or you're doing Theck and someone calls for a bop, even though it's a GCD. I just like that stuff for being able to cleanse, like we did. Yeah. We did Horadon without a monk, so I was like cleanse on cooldown. Like that stuff is cool. Like I guess it's not often that you heal in a boss fight. But I mean, you can pop one of those instant flash of lights. But just the utility stuff. And it kind of warms my heart that both of you guys said the same thing. I guess all three of us are on the same page.
Yeah, well, I think to draw more attention to this, when I was meeting everybody, when I was talking to Bear about this, is he always refers to himself as a paladin, not a retribution paladin, which I think is a really big point there, too. And would you want to go into like why you like to refer yourself as a paladin, not like a ret pally, Bear? Like, what does that mean to you?
Well, it basically means that I strive to do my, instant flash of lights, lay on hands, hand of protection, hand of salvation, hand of sacrifice, all the tools that we have, using them correctly, and then trying to maintain my DPS. Like I think that's a bigger part of what a Ret Paladin or a Paladin brings to the raid.
Yeah, you always made it sound like you were playing not just the face roll. So
yeah.
It's a challenge, to keep up the DPS with the rest of the raid and actually do your job, because Red Paladin's job is to do that stuff. You have to use your bob, you have to use your hand of salvation. So yeah.
No, that's really cool. You bring that up. So then, what about? I guess this hasn't been the most friendly expansion to Ret. Mostly because I don't know if it's like some weird like negative light and connotations floating around about the class from, like, I don't know if it comes down from the upper crust and it just trickles down or whatever. But like, what have your up and downs been in Mists? And I'll kick it over to Anna, and you can kind of break these down with the two of them, because I know that we've had like, don't bring Ret Paladins, they're bad, or then like all of a sudden, oh my god, bring Ret Paladins, they're really good. Like, what's been going on with Mists with you guys?
Don't bring Ret Paladins, they're bad. What a joke.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's been a really up and down expansion. Ret's always kind of up and down. We've been a class that's been very specialized for a lot of tiers now, and that specialization has not always been the same. I would say that Cataclysm was probably a worse expansion for us than Mists overall. Oh. But I would kick it over to these guys to disagree with me. But Cataclysm was just I was main spec prot for most of it. I was Ret when we needed burst, but it just felt like there was one thing I could do and one thing I was really, really good at. And then if any of the fight had anything else, like any cleave, then I didn't feel like I was helping out at all. And then I would go break down DPS meters and look at like the primary target and being like, hey guys, look how much damage I'm doing to the primary target.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a bummer. I mean, as far as Mists goes, I'm a little biased because I've really enjoyed our tier 4 piece this last tier, so that has colored my impression of the class a lot. And it's also had to do with when I personally have gotten gear compared to everyone else in the raid. I guess we don't run a whole lot of conch users, so I managed to get gear pretty fast in all of the tiers. But I felt like maybe the middle part of this tier was kind of a downer, and then the end of the tier has been a little bit better. But because the beginning and the middle of the tier were more of a downer, you didn't see a lot of people still using Rets at the end of the tier. So,
yeah, I just don't know where it is. I mean, I think we went through, Chris personally went through like 3 this entire expansion, and none of them stayed around. I don't know what it was, if it was the player, if it was the class, or what, but...
Get Rets who are former prots. Those tend to be solid. But let's kick it over to these guys, because y'all have more Retribution experience than I do. How have you guys felt about the expansion?
About the expansion, I think, as you said, in Mists of Pandaria, it was a lot better than Cataclysm for sure, because at least we have some AoE now, for example. Okay, we can actually pull off some numbers in AoE.
I feel you there. I feel you right there, because I never had it before either.
The thing is that, for example, Tier 15 was awesome for Paladins. I mean, the thing is that the other specs and classes just got a lot better, and the Blizzard actually fixed what it was meant to be fixed for Paladins at Mists of Pandaria. They actually made it viable, so you can actually take a Ret, so you can actually take a Retri in your raid in a hardcore progress environment or not.
I mean, yeah, if it doesn't tell anybody anything, that you're in Envy and you're Ret Paladin and you have been this whole expansion, and obviously they're not.
Yep.
You know,
and what we have 2 Retris. It's not only me. It's Sibix as well, and he's awesome, and we are both getting a spot most of the times if on progress or something. So yeah, you can actually say it's for Envy to use 2 Paladins. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. At least I'm happy with it. I could use a bit more, but we will end up in a QQ situation about Retris, and the chat will be on fire. So I will avoid that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Bear, what about you? What do you have your thoughts about?
Well, a lot of the problems that Ret has had in Mists of Pandaria stems from beta. Up until the last 2 weeks in beta, our sort of light or two-handed weapon scaling was good, and then it got nerfed down like right before the game went live, and like that you'd have to buff Ret Paladins over and over to make them scale properly, and that's what kind of happened. Even now in Siege of Orgrimmar, that specific ability is kind of bad, or not bad, but it should be increased by another 5% to make Ret Paladin up there with others.
Okay.
But yeah, like it's been mentioned, cleave isn't, like 2 or 3 target cleave isn't a big strong point for Ret Paladins, or AoE now in Siege of Orgrimmar is really, really, really strong. And or single targets, well, so it's not great, but if we're set to something, we're gonna keep up with everyone else.
Yeah. I think you definitely feel like you're in a better place than you were. I mean, Convert Trade was talking about Cataclysm earlier today from a healing perspective, about being like really like blech, and all the problems with it. But I guess it rings true outside of that spectrum that you all brought up, that Cataclysm was pretty blech for you guys as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was nothing compared to now. When we say that, you know, if we feel weak now, I feel like that's just on a whole nother level from how weak we felt in Cataclysm.
Yeah.
That was just like you would be on Rag and you'd be looking at the meter and you're like, well, I guess I'm here to kill the meteor, and that's why I'm here. So I'm going to kill the meteor and do my very best on the rest of it. I ran fire too, I guess, but yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm going to move us along real quick now. I look at the time and I was like, oh, we still have a lot more to talk about. So I wanted to kind of throw a bit of a, not a jab, but
we move.
Just a little bit of joking aside here with, you guys remember Sanctity Aura? Do you guys remember Sanctity Aura by chance? No,
I remember.
Sanctity aura. I mean,
Sanctity
I remember
aura.
a lot of auras. That's not one that I remember.
Sanctity aura increased holy damage done, and then it got buffed later on to increase all damage done by those people that had Sanctity aura by 2%. 2%! Yeah. So, but that brings me to wonder about how you guys feel about auras. Do you feel losing your passive auras took away something that made you feel very much like a paladin? And do you want them back? Bear, what do you think?
I don't think they added anything, so like in the way that they were, I think it's fine that they were removed. They could add like minor glyphs on like once the aura around their feet or something like that, but I don't think there's a big gain to getting them back.
Okay. And Morg, you feel about the same way, or do you miss auras?
I actually liked the aura, especially Sanctity aura. It was pretty good. It added some extra stuff, you know, a bit of flavor in Paladins, but
Yeah.
I'm fine. It makes it less complicated for us now. I wouldn't want them to go away. I like it how it is now, so I guess maybe they can add something more about auras. But yeah, I miss that aura.
I mean,
I
all
have
you
to
have
say.
for auras now is Devo, right?
Well,
We
yeah,
have-
but you have to understand that they changed seals to stances. I think it's
Yeah.
appropriate for every class to have like one stance bar. I think it's a
Yeah.
little silly for classes to have 2 stance bars. And effectively, we had 2 stances because you had seals and you had auras. So I mean, in some way, if you phrase it like you did, then it sounds like they took something out. But they actually changed it at the same time, such that seals acted like stances, and I think that's fine. I don't think we really need 2 different mechanics that work exactly the same way. One is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. We actually have a question about seals in a little bit here. But I guess the one thing chat room actually brings up, harken to them real quick. Do you guys miss Divine Intervention?
Yes.
Yes.
Although my guild doesn't let us wipe a void because we've bugged out way too many fights doing that. So we actually don't use feign death or invis or any of that stuff to wipe a
The
void.
things you
We just
could
recover.
do with divine intervention.
Razor Gore!
It was
Razor Gore.
pretty awesome. On our Brutalis guild, we were on Sunwell. We were kiting Brutalis for 30 seconds with divine intervention and stuff. Then it was pretty awesome. It sounded heroic, you know, to sacrifice yourself. It's so paladinish. Yeah.
I don't know, that felt to me very paladin-like. Granted, I guess it was too... During the archaic, like, classical version of it worked. But then once people like got too smart to the ability, then it became very abusable. But I always thought that was very paladin-oriented, you know, sacrificing yourself to save someone else kind of deal. I wonder if they could bring back Divine Intervention in some sort of way, but not make it that abusable. Just so you give that sort of... that paladin feel back to you guys in that way.
I hope they do as well.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty neat. And then, looking through these notes to build the show, you guys didn't even get Crusader Strike until Burning Crusade. It was your new bottom of the tree talent. So, in retrospect, looking at that way now, how do you feel that the Ret Paladin rotation has grown over time? Does it feel good now? Does it need some more tweaks? Like, are you totally GCD locked like Protection Paladins? Like, all the times, every button, every cooldown, you can never miss something. If you put it in the wrong rotation or wrong priority, you lose damage. So, like, what do you guys feel... is it a good place, or could it use some tweaks, Bear?
Well, the rotation, as it is now with the current 4 set, is pretty much the best it's ever been. It stands as, like, we have to wait and see how it feels without the 4 set, but there's some room there to add another ability. I know they're doing the whole ability bloat thing, removing everything.
Sure.
But if anything, I think Ret should get one more meaningful button to hit instead of losing one.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about you think? Morgan, anything else on that one? What do you...
Well, about the GCD lock thing, I feel you are definitely, after a certain amount of haste, you are definitely GCD locked with the amounts of haste you reach in Siege of Ogre March. So it feels kind of awkward, but at least it was a lot better. As you said, Crusade Strike was a bottom tier talent on Burning Crusade, so it's a lot better. And I think Blizzard is getting there. In the terms of the rotation, we actually have a rotation now, so I'm fine with that. I hope they can improve it, and we don't have that thing with the abilities happening with a certain amount of haste, getting GCD locked like we are now. At least I am getting GCD locked. But overall, it's an improvement, yeah.
Okay. And then, yeah, I mean, Anna can take this and go into the next topic with it, because I know that with your 4 set now, you basically get procs to get free Divine Storms, right? It resets it.
Yeah.
So, and you all love it so much, apparently, right? It's
pretty
the best.
good. Yeah.
So,
and I bitched and moaned so much about it when they first suggested it, like, what was it, last year in T15? They suggested it, and I complained hardcore on the EJ forums about that, about Divine Storm as a boring spell that I hated and I never wanted a proc. And then they changed it. I wasn't the only one who complained, but they changed it for T15, and we got like the most boring T15 set bonus ever. And then they brought it back for T16 in this like new and improved plus 150% form. It's pretty awesome. I kind of love it.
Yeah. So then to back up just a second, then. So the Divine Storm proc, does it just happen? Is it just percentage based, or what does it happen on something?
It's 25% on a Holy Power. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 25% on a Holy Power consumer, and it can proc off of itself. So any Holy Power consuming spell, regardless of whether it actually consumes the Holy Power, has a chance to proc the set bonus. And it procs a Divine Storm that hits for 150% damage. The way that Divine Storm works, it's a 100% holy damage spell, so it actually, just without the proc, I think I remember that it hits for about 70% of a TV on a single target. So that, at 150% damage, it actually hits harder to a single target than a Templar's Verdict. It's a really good proc.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, overall then, versus say like what you had before in the previous tiers, how much of a DPS gain was it? Is it actually like a really serious thing, or is it because the RNG element of it, can it be great or awful?
Well, 25% isn't that much RNG. I mean, it's a pretty significant gain.
I know I watched, when doing my research, there's a YouTube video of actually from one of our guests that put in to be a boss on the show, was like a 35-second video of the first pull on Phase 1 Hero of Garrosh. And it was like 9 Divine Storms in a row. Like it procced off itself, and it procced, and it procced, and it procced, and it procced, and she just spun in a circle basically. Well, the animation did, over and over and over and over and over again. So, is it overall, is there a DPS increase? I put on here that like, what if it would normally come off cooldown but then procs, so you actually lose 1. So do you still gain damage because of the bonus, or like how does that work?
What do you mean come off cooldown?
Well, if you were going to be using it and then it would proc anyway, do you get 2, or do you get just the proc? That's what I mean. Like if you were going to build, I don't know if one
of the other guys wants to answer this, but that's not really how Ret works.
You mean if you get a double proc? No, you just you have to use it and then use your finisher, so it procs again.
Oh,
so yeah,
okay.
It's one of the reasons I don't like it that much, but yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, if it's actually like, are there ways, because procs like that, it's sort of similar to Lava Lash for shamans we have right now, that Flame Shock resets our Lava Lash. You can get a proc for it as it's about to come off cooldown, and then you lose a Lava Lash. So it's just different how it works for you guys, since you
it's not really a cooldown situation though, because
exactly.
we're a resource. Like you, I suppose your Lava Lash works on a cooldown system, but that's not how Divine Storm is. It's a resource consumer. So we use Divine Storm with Holy Power. So if you get the proc, you just use it. You don't consume the Holy Power, and you can do it again. But there's not really a cooldown involved.
You know, that seems like it's a lot more fluid, because if we get the proc for our 5-stack Lava Lash and we use it, we can use Lava Lash again, but it doesn't have any stacks. It just takes them away. So
no, it's not nearly the same thing. It's because Divine Storm is a resource consumer. It works very differently than what you're describing.
Yeah, well. And then what do you think, Barry? Do you think this is going to become baseline in Warlords? Do you want it to become baseline in Warlords? I know Anna does.
I'm not hopeful.
It could make the baseline build or spellbook, I guess. It adds a certain level of like you either saving it for a AoE spawn or you use it right away for a single target increase.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of like smart play there. If it's gonna stay or not, not overly bothered, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I know how it's going to stay. They're going to stick it as a talent that we only spec for AoE fights.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to suck. No, I mean, that's what they're going to do. Watch. Record my words and look back at this.
This is recorded. This is recorded. We're good.
This is recorded. But that's what they're going to do. They're like, oh, man, we really like that set bonus. We're just going to, you know, put it into Ret. No, it's going to be some talent that we never talent. That's going to be how we get our set bonus.
Okay.
It's going to be sad.
Yeah. Okay, then. It's good and bad. It has its ups and downs, then.
Yeah.
So let's move us along here. I'll introduce this because Anna doesn't like this word. But we already talked about how, you know, paladins work as holy and prot, as we've had an episode of both already. But I wanted to kind of bring up the retribution, the DPS side of what your utility feels like for you guys. If it feels too different, if it, you know, there's different stances on how you guys use things, or when you do. So I want to keep this, of course, on Mist of Pandaria, because things have obviously changed before with different auras and, you know, aura mastery versus only Devo now and stuff like that. So, but first, where does Retribution sit on the grand scale in the DPS charts right now? I mean, I'll kick it over to Bear first, and then you can go to Morg, but you guys, because there's a little different, you know, knowledge about where you guys raid. So how does Ret sit, though, at, like, your progression level, though, Bear?
Well, in my raids, I'm like top 8 on most fights, which doesn't say much, but like on average compared to all the other classes, we're perfectly fine. We're not great, but you know, we're perfectly viable, at least for the top 50 and above. On single target, like we have our problems, but AoE, we're pretty much one of the best melee, if not the best melee for sustained AoE. So.
Yeah. Okay, and then more. What changes for you guys up at the World 4th stage for Ret? Obviously, you guys have 2, so...
Yeah, we are 2, and we are getting a spot most of the times. Not for our DPS, of course, because when we are progressing, like racing for World First, we will probably get a spot for not Devo Avra, for our Hand of Protection, for...
yeah.
For our and for our Devotion Avra, for our Hand of Salvation, if you wanna abuse something like Hand of Freedom and stuff like that, generally our officers don't use it for that stuff, for their DPS. They certainly don't shine that much on the terms of DPS, because you will definitely have a better geared melee, a DK or something, to cover that. I prefer him more as a support, as a utility in the raid, and that's how I see it generally. I don't see it as a single target DPS or any AoE DPS. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to, because there's this trickle down effect that I guess gets into the blood of the internet and rolls around there as like, oh, so and so's not using Retribution Paladins. Well, the class is garbage. Don't use it, which is just not true. And we've kind of hearkened to that and preached it a couple of times. And Anna said it before that, you know, it should not be about that. Outside of like the top couple of guilds, which is debunked on this episode specifically because of envy, you know, you can play whatever you need to play, right? There's no need to not bring or only bring certain classes, unless you're a warlock. I suppose that, you know,
Warlock, yeah.
yeah. So
nice class.
Nice class indeed.
Yeah.
We've
seen a lot of it.
Yeah. I mean, anything else to add on that, Anna, before I bring up the first question?
Where we were in terms of DPS.
Yeah.
I mean, and viability. I mean, at my level, we could pretty much bring all of the players in my raid could be playing whatever classes they wanted, and we would still kill the fights in the manner that we kill them. Like, just when you get out of like the world top 10, none of the classes are really not viable. I mean, that's kind of BS. So
yeah,
there was never a time. I don't think there was a time in this expansion where I was sat for my DPS. I mean, Devo kind of makes that very difficult to judge, because in so many fights, X Devos are a necessity, that
Yeah.
it wasn't even a question. Like, I don't even sit certain fights on farm. I mean, now I do, but back in the day, I didn't even sit certain fights on farm because they depended on having, you know, X number of devots. But I mean, I never really felt like my DPS was holding the raid back. Especially because we are so gear dependent that if you get gear early, you can be just destroying everybody else. And it's not necessarily because the class is doing really well. It's simply because there were certain pieces of gear that just made Ret dominate if you got them early. And if you didn't get them early, you maybe didn't have that experience. But if you got like the feathers early last year, that was a little bit absurd. And this year, if you got your 4-piece early, that was really strong. And we've had that happen with a couple of 4-pieces.
In some fights, yeah, it was pretty strong.
Yeah. So, okay, then. I'll bring up the first question we had to come in. This question came in from &Panda from US Dark Iron. Awesome name, by the way. Of course, I always mod the questions a little bit. So I put, do you think it's #worth to carry around the crafted Holy PvP 4 set to cast Flash of Lights pre-boss pill for Holy Power so you have Inquisition up on the pole at the start of a fight? Now, I had to ask before the show started, is this a real thing? And they confirmed it is, but what's the weight involved in this thing? Morgeine, is it actually pretty good?
Give me a sec.
I mean, do you do it? I guess, do any of you actually do this?
I personally, it is certainly, you should do it if you can do it. If you have the foresight, yeah, it's DPS increase for sure. But personally, I don't do it because that's the nature of our raids. As I told you, so we just keep on pulling, and it's just too troublesome for me to do it. But yeah, as I said before, it's like Firelands with protection set with the Guardian of Ancient Kings. You know, when you had 10 extra seconds on the Guardian if you used it with the protection for set. But whatever gives you DPS increase, it's worth it, yeah, for sure. So
okay. And then Barry, you had more on this too?
Yeah, like, you can say it's worth to do it, but like, if you take a full 8-minute fight, then the 3 holy power that you actually gain and from doing that trick, you're basically not gonna know it, is it? In the end, it's gonna matter more if you're on a boss that uses heroism on the pull, because then you don't have to waste a couple global cooldowns for that. But in most of the cases, it's not gonna make a huge difference, if any.
Yeah. I mean, Nixie freaked out in chat. Yes, it's worth it. It's God mode. So, I mean, we have that.
It's really, I mean, it's very good, and it looks better because you're looking at it on the pull, and you're like, oh my god, this feels great, you know?
Yeah, it's
like
great.
It's a great for like a minute, and it probably is worth it in the end. I mean, my problem is I never wanted to risk a mispull or having it fail, like what Statskowski just said, where it's like, it's awesome if someone fail pulls and you get to do like nothing
in the past.
And then it's like, do you really want to tell your raid, like, sorry, I screwed up a gear shift, can you wipe it and can we do this again? Like,
I'm wearing 463 blues.
I mean, it's worth it if you're doing something that is like a serious DPS race, and then it's like, yes, we should be wiping this if we screw the pull up, and we absolutely should be getting this right.
Yeah.
But like, what in Siege was that serious of a DPS race?
No.
There were a lot of things, and at least when my guild did all of them, there were a lot of challenges that weren't like, let's eke out another 0.5% DPS.
Yeah, for example, Black Fuse was a good. Now that you mentioned it, if it's a DPS race? For example, Black Fuse was a real problem. But when we were progressing Black Fuse, it would be a luxury to have even 4 pieces on your main spec. So yeah, that's why I not use the stuff.
Okay, fair enough. And I wanted to move on real quick here to talk about how you guys use it. I brought it up really funny with Trek Against Sloot about you guys lay your hands on people quite a lot. But so with lay on hands, hand of protection, hand of salvation, hand of freedom, and hand of sacrifice, how do these work for Ret? Anna, you go first, and you go around with them. How do you guys deal with all of your? Do you use them more for yourself, or do you actually throw them out all over the place to
Wow.
everyone else?
You're calling me out.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Lay on hands is like 99% of the time my personal CD. Just saying.
Yeah.
It is macroed to use on me, and
Okay, perfect.
Oh no, I use it on tanks all the time though. I mean, that's I have target of target in the center of my screen, and I'll pop it on the target of target pretty often.
Yeah.
But yeah, lay on hands. I have it macroed specifically to use on me. Like I know you don't actually have to macro it, but I've screwed it up if my mouse is over something, so I macroed it to use on me. I stick it on a convenient key, and it's a get out of jail free card that I use commonly.
Right. Right.
As for the rest, like I like using them. Freedom I just use on me. Sack I use in rotation or when called for. But I used to be a tank, so our tanks call for my sack pretty frequently. Salve, like it's not even on my bars. And there's a YouTube video out there of me pulling threat on Garrosh on the pole and dying, and my raid leader calling, "Wipe it!" And I'm like, no.
Perfect.
So yeah.
Awesome.
And protection just gets called for, but that's a GCD, so I really don't like doing that. The holies need to do that first.
Yep. And then Bear, what do you guys think? What do you do? Because you're the one that likes to call yourself a paladin, not a ret paladin. So how is it for you? Do you prioritize these on other people?
Yeah, in particular DKs, if they run with the talent that makes them basically not die when they should die.
Yeah.
Use Leon has
that purgatory,
of course. Yeah, purgatory, and then there's like very situational for like hand of protection on Garrosh when in the phase 1 when people get fixated by the orcs right before the star hits and things like that. And there's a lot of like small things you can do in different fights, but in general I tend to gravitate to using them on others instead of myself. Like I'd rather use divine protection and bubble to save myself, and like that's my.
So you don't have lay on hands macro to cast on yourself then? Is what we're getting at? Is this?
I'm just
I have it on my bars, but I also have it like on mouse over for my raid frames.
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
With
Yeah,
the
no,
I think
that's
it's
what I have
easier
it
to bubble.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, but let's be honest here. I spent many years tanking, and when you spend many years tanking, your first reflex, you don't want your first reflex to be bubble. Like bubble's very useful, but I want my first reflex to be in an emergency situation, like, oh my god, lay on hands, and then it's fine. But
yep. Yeah. And then Morgeine, what do you think too?
I believe it or not, 99% of the times I'm used to using it on the raid generally. Like I'm always like ready to pull the trigger if I can say that to lay on hands the tank or something, because it's like that when you are progressing, and it's just like it will make the difference from a kill or not, you know. Yeah. That's from my experience. So I usually keep it for a tank when shit hits the fan, you know. And if I see something, you know, that I'm gonna die, I just bubble. So yeah, that's what I said. That's why I said the Galakras thing. It made this easier. But yeah, generally, yeah, I use the hands for the raid most of the times. I have like my raid frames are much like that of a healers, you know. So yeah, I keep track of Bob and stuff on forbearance on people. So
how much healing is lay on hands again? Is it still based on your health? Is that how it works, or is it like percentage based now? I have no idea.
Sadly, yes, it's based on your health.
It's on your max health. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can only ever give as much health as you have. So okay. Yeah. That's still like a huge.
But still, it's a huge. Huge.
So it'll be interesting to see how those sort of abilities go in Warlords, because they are removing a lot of that outside stuff from like DPS and whatnot. But goodness me, I mean, if you guys lose like lay on hands and all these different, bop and salve and stuff like that, that'd be weird. That'd be very weird. So we'll have to see how that works.
Yeah,
I mean, you've all talked a little bit about Devo in your other time as we've gotten to this point, but I want to go with your thoughts on Devo Aura, and you can even go into the way of thinking about how this is going to change in Warlords, because of the way that we haven't gotten any confirmed deny about how it's going to change in Warlords yet, because it's not a thing. But Bear, what do you think about Devo? Are you guys really only brought for Devo? Is it too strong? right now? Like, what would you think?
I wouldn't say we were brought for. There were like there's certainly some boss like Theck and Paragons for the file lands that were very useful because it has such a huge raidway range.
Yeah.
As for Warlords, like it's been discussed a lot on the internet and whatever that only healers and tanks should have those kind of cooldowns, which I kind of agree on. But then again, a lot of those issues with raid stacking for certain cooldowns has been because 10 versus 25. So maybe 20-man will actually just fix the need to actually raid stack cooldowns.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because it won't really exist anymore. Hopefully,
yeah,
to the extent it is now. So, yeah. And then Morgeine, what do you think about Devo?
Yeah, the nature of it's a very unique raid cooldown. You know, the amount that you can cast through silences and stuff, and the damage reduction. It's one of the biggest magic damage reduction raid buffs in the game. So yeah, sometimes you have to stack it. When you are progressing and you are racing forward first and stuff, I think it's mandatory to stack Devotion Navra. So I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem getting a spot only for a Devotion Navra. If that makes a boss go down and we get a kill, I'm fine with that. So yeah. But generally, I think that on Worlds they will. It's too strong now, but I think they will nerf it down a bit, make it a more on equal level with the other raid cooldowns. Because, for example, it's too strong on Theck. You can stack 4 paladins and you will cast through the whole first phase, for example.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how they're gonna do that. I wonder if Holy will get it only in the future, and you guys won't have it anymore.
That would be good.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
we'll see.
I hope
maybe
they
Holy,
will.
maybe Holy and tanks.
maybe. Yeah.
But I hope they make it up for it. If we lose our Devotion Navra, just give us something else so we can keep a spot, do our job, and everyone will be happy.
They're gonna put it on your Guardian of Ancient Kings. Yeah. That's what it'll do.
You think?
No, I have no idea. I just wanted to bring up Guardian of Ancient Kings because Anna loves her.
Yeah, my favorite spell.
Yeah.
Tell us more about it.
Tell us more, yeah. So, alrighty, I'm gonna chug us along here real quick because we want to get into a bit more of the nitty-gritty. We have a lot more to talk about. So, I wanted to inform you all of a couple things that we have going on behind the scenes and some awesome communities that if you don't know about, you should now. And those are going to be, of course, the very awesome manaflask.com, which is a huge depository for community news. And actually, here, Sunni of Method has been doing these healing blogs. I actually misspoke, I think last week, a week before. There's almost like a dozen of these now that break down different aspects of healing in Siege of Orgrimmar and this expansion. So you guys should go check out Mana Flask for, if not those, but other ones. See the end of the line. It's all about Garrosh this week. So really awesome stuff. They also do post community news. There's us right here. They've got streams in both English and then German dominant ones. They've also got their VOD section down here as well. But if you guys want to go check out Mana Flask, they're a really awesome background part of the community here, and they've been supporting us ever since we started. So, oh god, stop, go away. But they're really awesome. As well, not Ret-based, but still Paladin-based, SacredDuty.net is the protection blog that Theck runs, and Anna kind of dabbles in on the side now and then here. Theck does lots and lots of Paladin theory crafting for protection, but then also has some ridiculously awesome depositories for weak aura strings for a lot of classes. Not just prop Paladins. They got tons of stuff. They got Ret Paladin stuff down here. All the prop ones right here too. They got Priest and Warlock and Warrior and Rogue and Hunter and Death Knight and Druid and Mage and Monk and Priest and Rogue and all this other stuff today. So SacredDuty.net is a lot more than just a prop Pally blog. But Theck is awesome, and we've been talking about them for quite a while now. And if you guys need some information on that, SacredDuty.net. And then, if you want lore in this game, not Josh Allen lore, but lore, like actual game lore, from a Paladin, Also, you can go look out at Nobbel on the YouTubes. His YouTube is Nobbel87, Nobbel the Noble. He's probably in chat right now lurking, even though he changed his chat name color to not Paladin color, which I'm not sure is heresy or not. But he has a plethora of videos on his stream. Oh, he changed his layout. He does mostly his lore videos. He also has Let's Plays and whatnot, but, you know, there's Valera Sanguinar. He just did Uther the Lightbringer lore a little while ago. He breaks down all these awesome stories. He did Medivh and Medan and Agewind a little while ago. Really, really awesome stuff. You guys should go check out Nobbel. He is super cool, peoples. He's been on the show before, too, and coming back on the show here in a little bit, because on March 23rd, it's just a regular show time, March 23rd, at our normal time, we are going to be having a little bit of a special event on the show. We are going to be having a live WoW Trivial Pursuit day. We're going to run 2 rounds of Trivial Pursuit with all of these amazing guests below. Of course, Anna and I will be there. Elvine will be there, the Gold-Making Mage. Nobbel the Noble will be there. Silver Latomi, Brutal Static, and the brothers of Fat Boss, Alex and Laws, will be here. So we're going to have a whole bunch of fun. We're going to have an awesome layout for the board. We're going to do, like I said, 2 rounds of this. It should be a lot of fun. Mr. Paul Whips, if you're familiar with his work, he does a lot of work for Open Raid, did this for us, and it's amazing. This is a beautiful piece of art, and will be posted around in social media and whatnot. So if you guys want to come hang out with us and a whole bunch of extra special guests that'll be in the chat room for this Trivial Pursuit special live stream, then we will see you on March 23rd. And then, of course, if you want to watch any of our past episodes, you can go hit us up on YouTube. The link is right down below. And we have, oh my goodness, this is our 32nd episode. So we've got Elemental Shamans, Resto Druids here. We've got Rogues. We had our special community episode with Brutal, Silver Latomi, and Ro on here. And then all of our ones from last year as well. All the way back to July of last year, we did Heroic 10-Man. We had a Midwinter special, Windwalker Monks, Mistweaver Monks, Brewmaster Monks, Hunters, Holy Paladins, Feral Druids, Holiday Special, the season finale. All of our VODs are on YouTube. The link is down below. So if you've missed any episodes, you can go check them out right there on YouTube. We're also now on iTunes, as we've always been, and we're on Stitcher as well. You have to search for FinalBossTV on Stitcher, though. You can't just search for Final Boss. It won't work. But the links are obviously on our website down below as well if you want to subscribe to the podcast version only, or if you want to listen to them later and whatnot. You can do that. But that's enough of me babbling. That's enough of that. Let's jump into the rest of the show now and get some more nitty-gritty and meat and potatoes and some math and theory and talents and whatnot. Oh. So, let's bring up stat priorities first. All right. So, I know those stat priorities are all weird.
They're so complicated.
I know. But hey, just to quell any...
That's what I said.
Oh, well, yeah.
I know.
So, are there any mythical break or stack points you want to achieve? Which brings us to a question. This question came in from Sandrilon. I like that one better. US Zuljin. Can you go over the math behind the 40% soft capping of haste before moving stats into mastery? And we talked about this right before the show started. So, Morgeine, tell us about what this is.
So, about haste, yeah. Haste is king, okay, we know that. Thing is that the rotation is already a problem as it is. And the thing after 40% haste is that you actually replace the weaker abilities in the rotation, because as you know, Ret has a priority-based rotation. You actually replace the weaker abilities with stronger ones. So, haste is king, but now with how the nature of Siege of Orgrimmar, the bosses, is that Master is good in most of the fights because of Divine Storm. It has no armor mitigation, so you can stack Mastery after 40% of haste, and you can actually pull off in bosses like Summons, on Garrus, for example. It goes really well with Forset, so yeah.
So what is the reason for going to 40% though? Is there like some GCD level that you hit like perfectly at 40% haste, or What does it do for you guys, specifically?
Personally, I said before, I prefer going for more haste because more haste equals more Art of War procs, and it replaces the weaker attacks with stronger ones. But I'm still doing some experiments with gear. I'm still gearing up after my break.
Sure.
And
okay. Well, what about you, Bear? What do you have to say on that topic? What's the reasoning behind all this stuff?
Well, as Morg said,
yeah,
the whole goal is to get as many mastery triggering attacks as possible, which is Crystal Strike, Templar Verdict, Sword of the or Hammer of the Righteous, and Divine Storm, and Hammer of Wrath, of course. So when you get to 40% and you have the tier 16 4 set, you basically fill all your global cooldowns, or more or less all of them, with attacks that trigger mastery, which in turn makes mastery more valuable than haste after like 17k rating or 40%. So after the 40%, you can go more haste, you can go crit, you can go mastery.
Mastery, yeah.
They all have their strong points. Mastery is king for AoE, for instance, while haste is slightly better for single target. So yeah, it's complicated. Like
it's as Anna said, yeah, it's really complicated because the priorities, for example, crit goes over mastery if you have Thock Trinket, which amplifies the 3 secondary stats, haste, mastery, and crit.
Yeah.
And at least in my sims, crit goes over mastery, for example, and I've seen many paladins using it as well.
Yeah.
So it's really complicated. I still prefer stacking haste. But mastery is king on, with the current 4 set, mastery is king over on, after 40% haste, is king on fights with where you can DPS 2 targets on the majority of the encounter, like Shamans, Garros, as I said, and every AoE fight you can imagine that involves AoE in its majority.
I mean, like 70% of this tier 16 has been AoE oriented. So yeah, I can
that's
see how
that's in nature. That's why it's the nature of the raid, the Siege of Ogrimmar. It's pretty weird. So I hope the viewers can understand that it's pretty complicated. Lots of paladins try stuff. I even tried without 4 set. I tried playing only with 2 set and stacking haste. It's pretty complicated.
I went full mastery for a while.
You did?
Yeah, I went full master as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people tried it. I actually tried with 4 set. Yeah. I tried it for a completely different reason. No, I actually went full mastery. Maybe it was last year. It was because it was right when ability lag was really, really, really awful for 25-man guilds. And I was sitting there like my GCD would go all the way around and then it would reset. And I'm sitting there like, well, if I'm going to lose this much performance from freaking ability lag anyway, I might as well make my GCD artificially longer. So I geared into mastery. And I geared into mastery not because it was better, but because it was so close that I figured I would perform better geared mastery than I would geared haste. And then I went back to haste when they fixed the ability lag problem. But it was fun. I mean, I like experimenting with that stuff. And it wasn't necessarily, when I simmed it, the difference was definitely within the margin of error for a normal skilled player. I mean, I probably wouldn't have done that if I was competing for like world firsts. But the margin of error was like 1% maybe. So, I mean, I thought it was fine. I figured I was performing better geared mastery anyway. But like I said, I went back to haste afterwards. I went back to haste probably about halfway through, well, when we got into Siege. So.
Yeah, with the GCD clipping, I would prefer going mastery after the 40% haste, or when you feel like you have to actually test it in an encounter to see when your rotation starts to get too much. Like GCD logging, as we said before, because the amounts of haste in Siege of Ogrimmar is pretty insane. You can reach insane amounts of haste.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of room for experimental there,
So
to try stuff.
Yeah, that's what I put on here. So it seems like your experimenting, though, is only between crit, mastery, and haste. You never, like, strength doesn't factor into this at all?
No.
No, like a lot of classes, our secondary stats way outpaced strength. In fact, they outpaced
So
strength
weird,
so
yeah.
much that I remember when it became more optimal to gear your like red gems into expertise than into strength, into strength hybrid gems. And that's actually I think for most classes now in Siege, I rarely see anyone gemming a primary stat. I don't know what it is about secondary stats for everybody, but that seemed to be quite common for most of us DPS to gem secondary stats these days.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I guess for me, I mean, I'm mastery agility, so I'm either like, I either do solid yellow mastery or I do orange agility mastery. But I've never, I don't know, like, I look at like warriors right now, and every socket is crit, 320 crit in everything. So, I thought they really Blizzard wanted to like put a lot of weight in primary stats. Maybe hopefully that'll change in Warlords because everyone just gems their secondaries right now, right?
Well, if I can jump in on that,
Yeah, go for it.
like the biggest reason for that is that primary stat gems only give a 160 rating, while secondary stat gems give double that.
Yep.
And that automatically puts it at like a 2-to-1 ratio, and most like stat priorities don't have that big a difference between strength and the secondary stats. So the brute force of the actual stat gems is what's making the difference.
Things like that,
Yeah. Okay.
It's like that for most of the classes, not only us. I think, we will never gem strength in this expansion for sure.
Yeah.
With more gear, it goes even higher, the amount of, so.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just put that on there because I didn't even realize. So, if you wanted to, could you put like a carrot, like chart on this, like which ones you'd put before? Is haste first, and then crit or mastery sort of depends on your gear level. So you should always get your haste up first, or could you literally go any of those three avenues though?
Simit.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, but no, I mean haste, like
is king.
Haste is king. And then and it's also haste just makes your playstyle more fun. So if anybody's watching this and wondering how to gear like their super new ret, haste is fun. But haste and then I would say mastery over crit. But they're so close that you're not going to lose that much damage from doing it wrong. Like I wish that you did because that would make it more interesting. But the fact of the matter is you're just not going to.
It's pretty complicated because Thock Trinket makes crit a bit better than mastery, but haste is king for sure. Don't misunderstand us.
Okay.
Yeah. Thock Trinket only makes crit better when you actually crit, though. So
yeah,
if you crit it all the time, then
you have to go for crit after you get. If you, what I'm saying is that you reforge and go for full crit. You don't gem crit, of course. You go full crit in terms of itemization. You pick pieces that give, for example, crit haste for secondary stats, and you reforge for crit.
Yeah.
In that terms, yeah.
Now, is that single target or is that meter mating? I mean AOE.
Oh,
because I mean we're all on farm now, so I know where my priorities are.
Yeah. I think the same way. How many flame shocks can I get spread right now?
We pull Garrosh and I don't get any 4-piece procs on the pull, and I'm like, can we wipe this? Can we do this again?
Yeah, redo.
Can we do this over?
Just go back to one.
What if I'm just gonna go die in Jade Temple and can maybe pull this again?
I missed my interrupt. I'm so sorry, Sam.
Yeah, really,
Whoops.
I missed my interrupt.
Yeah, of course. So, well, alrighty. I was gonna bring up your mastery, but I guess we've talked about it enough as it is now. So, which of the talent tiers you want to talk about, Anna? I'll bring up the other. You bring up the other. Which one you want?
Well, I'd like to get these guys' opinion on the very first talent tier because I actually thought the movement talent tier. I used to think it was a lot more interesting than I feel like it is now. Now I'm really bored with it because I've spent the last year and a half spec sprint, which I'm pretty sure is how a lot of us high-end rets have spent the last year. Spec sprint. If you're a high-end raider, you probably want to sprint. But at the beginning of the expansion, I thought it was a cool talent tier that had options that I kind of went back and forth between. So what are y'all's thoughts?
Well, the judgment-related one, judgment isn't like a high priority ability for us, so we basically have to force ourselves to actually use it for the bonus. Speed of light, the sprint, is what I tend to always get because most fights we tend to stand still a lot of the time, and if you have to move, there's basically just once a minute, and then you're always going to have speed of flight or the sprint up.
Yeah.
I remember the last boss in Morgeine Waltz. I used the last one, the one that gives you a haste, movement speed based on your holy power. I used that for the dancing part, and that's basically the only time I've used it.
I have actually spec'd out of that tier entirely. Oh no, I spec'd into sprint for that, just to keep myself stable, at a stable speed for the dance in Will of the Imps, because I found that having different levels of a speed boost kind of messed me up when I was doing it.
Yeah. Actually, Nobbel brings it up, and go ahead, Morg. What do you say?
No, for the last boss on Morgeine, I actually spec'd the judgment one and I was keeping track of my judgment cooldown for the dance. Don't know why, but that's how I ended up doing it, and it feels more, I don't know, good to me.
Yeah.
But generally, as Anna said, yeah, sprint is the best in most of the situations. And don't get Pandaren step enchant on your boots, people get haste. I wanted to say that since forever.
Oh, get haste, okay.
Don't get Pandaren step, get haste on your boots.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to note, because I really liked that talent tier when I first looked at our talents, and then after 2 years of playing with it, I find it very boring. Because what is there a situation? There is no situation where a 40-second sprint is subpar with compared to the other options. So maybe Primordius. I did judge sprint on Primordius, and that was pretty much the only one. So
it stacks with rocket boots as well. So
yeah.
No,
I actually took off Lacen platform once with that, but yeah.
But I wanted to bring up what Nobbel brought up, and he brought up that like the judgment speed could be more like retribution. The passive speed, based on your holy power, I always felt was really good for protection, because you always want to just be faster. And then the sprint would be a little more situational. But if you, like Anna said, you've been at your sprint for a year and a half or whatever it's been now, so.
I actually find myself, I'm third tank for my guild, so I'm in tank spec reasonably often. I'm still a sprint for Prot, just because on-demand sprint is so powerful. But yeah, I agree. My default would be the holy power boost. The other talent tier that I'd want to talk about would be obviously Holy Avenger, Sanctified Wrath, and Divine Purpose. That's the talent tier that gets discussed fairly often. And this talent tier actually makes me very sad, because I really like Divine Purpose. I'm one of those Rets who really regretted losing it. And it was very difficult to find a time to spec it at all this expansion, when it was good at all, because on-demand cooldown has just been... Before it was mathematically better, it was just better with regard to our strengths. We were a burst class. If we wanted burst, we spec'd Holy Avenger at the very, very beginning of the expansion. And then Sanctified Wrath is just really hard not to spec, especially with the CDR trinket. So I don't know what you guys feel like, but this talent tier has depressed me.
Yeah, Bear, what do you think about level 75 talents?
Well, the old Celadry or the Holy Avenger is pretty much useless, as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't interact with the cooldown reduction trinket, so just everyone should ignore that for Reds, I feel. Divine Purpose interacts insanely well with our 4-set. I've had like 31 or something Divine Storms in a row a couple times. Which is always fun. Which is always fun on Galacras, passing the warriors and elemental shamans.
Wow.
But yeah, for like right now in farm, I use Divine Purpose on pretty much everything up until shamans, because I can't really bother to swap it in. And like padding meters is kind of fun. But like for single target, Sanctified Wrath is always going to win, simply because it's so strong. Like every single attack you do is basically mastery, and then it just blows off.
Okay. So then Morgeine, I guess in that same regard, is there like a clear-cut answer based on fight? It looks like Divine Purpose or Sanctified Wrath is pretty much the only go-tos, right?
About that, I think Sanctified Wrath is the best in the majority of the situations. Divine Purpose is fine, but I don't like it because I said before I'm in bad terms with RNG. And yeah, and I don't like it at all. Holy Avenger is not that good this tire because of the CDR trinket from Galacrash. It messes up the lineup of Holy Avenger with Sanctified Wrath, and that's why I don't use it. It was good in progress on some. It's good when you want more burst, when you want the target to go down, like the walls on Durumu Heroic, for example. It was good there.
Yeah.
Generally, in that case. But I prefer Sanctified Wrath in 95% of the situation.
Yeah.
It's a winner clear because of Hammer of Wrath spamming only.
It does just feel that. I mean, obviously, Holy Avenger has the burst, and you get a lot more Holy Power to use abilities over and over again. But then after that, it's kind of over. And considering that how well you scale with, you have abilities that just they ignore armor, that you would want to use as many of those as possible. And proccing for free ones or having just Hammer of Wraths all day every day would seem to me like that's pretty clear cut. Yeah.
I want to say something fast. About Divine Purpose, how it interacts with the current force set. Because when you get a free Templar's Verdict, for example, from Divine Purpose, and you use that, you have a chance to get a free Divine Storm from the force set. And from that Divine Storm, you have a chance again to get a free Templar's Verdict from the Divine Purpose. And it goes back and forth like that.
Yeah.
I tested it once. It was good, but as I said, the RNG gods are not good with me. So back to Sanctified Wrath it is.
The RNG gods. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. So then we'll move on to your level 90 talents then.
Even more boring.
I mean, so you've got Holy Prism. You got that short, long cooldown laser. You have your Lights Hammer, which looks damn cool, but it's the
awesome. Yeah.
minute-long cooldown snap AoE, and then a little bit more after that. And then, of course, Executioner Sentence, which is just your single-target Atramedes trash ability.
I mean, let's be honest. When is the last time that you guys have spec'd into Lights Hammer? Because every time I try to use it on a fight, because it technically, by the numbers, Lights Hammer is better at like 1.7 targets or something like that.
Yeah.
But they have to sit in the hammer the whole time.
Yeah.
And that is not how our AoE fights work. They all move. Or there's a primary DPS target that's more important. So on every fight where I'm like, ooh, I want to use Lights Hammer, it's like the worst possible choice. Like, use it on spoils? No. So
Nah, not gonna happen.
use it on Galacrass. I mean, maybe if you're on the ground and if your tank is like really good about putting stuff in the same place every time, but no. Oh.
But
Well,
no.
it's good if you wanna maximize the DPS for going for logs, for example. If you wanna do some good log, but it's very situational. I think for me it's a very disappointing talent. The last one, it's one of the worst because most of the times I don't even bother throwing execution sentences. I mostly use it for heal on myself if I need some extra healing. To be honest, I don't even consider it a DPS skill. It's pretty useless wasting GCD on that for me.
Is it really that bad?
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
Wow.
It scales with spell power, so it's best if you throw it with fully stacked Guardian and Pot and Avenging Wrath and Trinkets, but it literally does nothing than 200k damage more or something. It's pretty useless for me.
We've gone over before that if you need to couple a talented cooldown ability with like everything and the kitchen sink, then it's not. It's pretty lackluster. So,
It is.
Barry, what do you think about level 90 talents?
Well, in terms of DPS, it's only really Execution Sentence. That's the viable option. Like Holy Prism and Lights Hammer I've used for healing or trying to help healers during progress because healers are undergeared or we're dropping a healer to try and beat the DPS.
Sure.
So that's the main uses for them. The only fight I can suggest using Lights Hammer in Siege of Argmar is for Black Fuse if you're on the floor to take out the mines. Because it slows technically, and it like the mines is always going to be up every minute or something. So you're always going to have that slow available then. So, but for DPS, it's only execution sentence, and that's only really strong because snapshotting. You use it when trinkets procs and engineering things. So yeah.
Yeah, I went engineering this tier, and I felt like a bad that I wasn't engineering before. I feel like I have to admit that. Like, I'm so sorry, Retribution community. I wasn't engineering until Siege of Orgrimmar. How could I possibly speak for any of you guys until that point?
Are you a tailor? Did you have a
No,
tailor?
I was not tailoring. I was jewel crafting, which is terrible. I know. I'm sorry. I had to admit it. I was jewel crafting.
Once you go engineer, you never go back, you know?
I know, you never go back. It's so good.
Don't remove rocket from your belt.
For the viewers at home who aren't Rets, which is probably not very many of you, the reason why engineering is so good is because you get the 1 minute Signet Springs on your gloves, and an execution sentence is a 1 minute cooldown. So you can pop the Signet Springs, and it's snapshots. So you get that buff on your execution sentence, and it's great. And the reason why JC is so bad is because, like we said before, we gear into secondary stats, and JC is pretty crap if you gear into secondary stats. So, sad but true, it's not a profession that's worth very much anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know mages are getting a huge talent sweep that Celestalon tweeted about, so we'll see how sweeping everyone else's talents become for Warlords, because it sounds like, and the more and more we get into these class episodes, like, we keep getting a lot of that feedback, is that there's either, like, one choice and it's like, and the choices are kind of like, just, you don't even ever do them, or you've been one talent almost the entire expansion, which is not the point of what the system was supposed to be, so we shall see. So the last little bit to wrap up here before we get out of here, we have some questions, and then some Warlords of Draenor talk. So I'll bring this up real quick.
Let's go with this next question. I've got some more questions about talents for our guests, but I'd love to know what you guys want to see in Warlords as far as Ret fixes or balances or changes to the way that Retribution works. Both of you guys have been playing Ret at a pretty high level for a while now, so what would we like to see changed in Warlords?
I'll give you a talking point on that, actually. We have a question that came in for that. This question was from Pitts from EU Stormreaver. So, what do you guys think about seals? Should they be removed? I put changed. They don't seem super useful at the moment. So we'll start with seals, I guess, and then you can go from there.
Yeah. Seals. About seals, yeah. As we said before, it's good for a class to have a stance bar, you know. It feels a bit different. It gives you a bit of a choice what you wanna do. I think seals are fine in the moment. The only annoying thing is maybe getting them off GCD or something. So, but that would have a great may mess up with PvP. So Blizzard tries to balance both. Me, only as I see it from a PvE perspective, it would be good if they got them off GCD. So, for example, when we wanna AoE actually above our 4 or 6 targets, Seal of Righteousness pulls ahead. So it would be good if we could switch to it without wasting a GCD and AoE. I'm fine as they are, but I just they have to tweak them, you know, play with them a bit, maybe get them off the GCD or something. Don't know. I'm fine as they are.
Well, I guess my devil's advocate side of me thinks that if you have to have a stance that you basically only have on per class, why isn't it just something like baked in or just there anyway? Because do you ever change your seals as Retribution? Like, ever?
No.
Yeah.
So, like,
no,
what's
that one guy in Heart of Fear? Sorry. Whoops.
Oh.
Yeah.
I change seals all the time.
Not
all the time,
but yeah.
I guess that's fair.
What do you think, Bear? What do you do with? Yeah. What do you think about seals?
Well, Seal of Truth, like, you can spread sensor. That's like the main thing about that in terms of everything except just a single target thing. As Mark said, after 4 or 6 targets, you change to the Seal of Righteousness, which basically is AoE. But it's only worth it if the answer is going to stay live for like
Yeah.
8 or 10 seconds. So there you have to do a lot of math while you actually play, or you have to like calculate it from one week to another, depending on how much Gary Warlocks get to cleave the ads faster.
Yeah.
But like bats on Thugs, the only fight on this tier, I think, or maybe Galacross, but
Yeah.
so I think they should stay. There's definitely a lot of things they can do to make them more like useful. Like you have the PvP seals, which basically never gets used, but
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I've somebody in chat is saying Seal of the Righteous on spoils. I mean, I guess it really depends on what your spoils strat is. If you're doing, we prioritize a lot of single target DPS on spoils. There's generally stuff to cleave around, but we do like big, and then we open lots of mediums. And we only do the smalls along with the big ones. And I like to prioritize the big ones just because that's how we learned our strat. So it really just depends on what you're doing. I mean, if you want a pad, you could probably use SOR on pretty much anything that's got multiple targets around you. But I have a habit of going for the primary kill target, and I'll use the Censure Seal most of the time.
it's always fun on spoils being the only melee or only person being on the conchongs, the little mobs.
Yeah, you sit there and you're like, anyone gonna help me out here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I get to do Mogu on that because when we started doing that fight, my four piece was just completely dominating the Mogu side, and it was pretty much the only time that I've had that moment where it's like, you are really great damage on this, on everything. We're just gonna leave you on Mogu side for both of the Mogus. And I was like, yes.
I did.
So it's like Anafielle, tank, everyone else. It was the best.
I did Mogu when we were learning because Flame Shock and Fire Nova was Jesus. Shaman Jesus. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So then to go back to the main point before I go, one more question. So what do you guys think about going into 6.0 for Retribution? Are there things you need? Things can be removed, tweaked, changed, fixed, added?
For me, they should totally remake the level 90 tire. I mean, it's useless as it is for me. They should just add some flavor to it, to make it a bit more worth getting anything of those talents. And a bit, I think they should watch our rotation a bit, get some buttons off, because remove some spells. Don't know how they're gonna do it. Just generally make the rotation feel less clamped up. Don't know how to say it. Like getting GCD locked, like we are now when haste goes to these numbers, and generally keep the same utility nature Retri has. For me, I don't want to change that. Just that level 90 talent.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Bear. What about you?
Well, I have a big issue with how our mastery works in certain situations. Like the way it works is a percentage of the damage you deal with, like Hammer Wrath, Temperance Strike, and so on, gets like another strike, which is the mastery. So on bosses where you have a permanent damage increase, like the first boss in Throne Thunder, your mastery is going to double dip, so it deals double the damage it should do. And on the same side, on Norishan, where you have a damage reduction on yourself, the mastery is going to be reduced 2 times. So I really hope they find a solution for that. I mean, it's a big issue. Like on Norishan progress, I had to go all crit because mastery did nothing, for instance.
Okay. And then back to you, Anna.
Do I get to answer this one?
Yeah, of course. Please. Before you answer,
pretty much manage the show. I've just been answering things.
Before you answer that question, I have to bring up the last question we brought in. This is from Frohamwood on US Airy Peak. If you could make any change to Ret other than removing Guardian of Ancient Kings, sorry, Anna.
It's that obvious.
What would it be? That's his question verbatim. I did not edit this.
Okay, yeah, I
So-
can answer this both at the same time. And
Yeah.
for those following along at home who may not have seen the show before, the reason why I hate on Guardian of Ancient Kings is because I have this hatred of spell effect overload in 25-man raids that makes me unable to see anything, and my own Guardian is the worst offender because he's like a freaking light bulb next to me, and I think it's the dumbest cooldown ever. So, anyway, but that's why he said, aside from Guardian of Ancient Kings, which they've already said, I think they've already said that they're going to take that away from Ret. I really like the way that Ret works. I thought Ret was a really boring spec in Wrath when I tried it, and then I kind of fell in love with it when it got Holy Power in Cataclysm, and then in Mists when they added more Holy Power with the ability to go to 5. I just really like the way the rotation works. I like the feel of it, and maybe it's because I'm a recent comer to Ret, fairly recent. I mean, I guess within the last 4 or 5 tiers, but I have a lot of affection for the way that Ret works right now. My biggest frustration is that Divine Purpose is hidden in a talent that we never use. I kind of went into this a little earlier on the show. I really like Divine Purpose. I wish our rotation was a little prockier, and I'm a bit annoyed that, well, I mean, I guess we use it sometimes, but I'm a bit annoyed that you have to talent into it. I wish that our rotation was a little prockier, and in general, I'll say what Zardine said in chat. I wish there was a bit more penalty for doing it wrong, because a lot of us watching the show know how to play Retribution right. And I like the rhythm of the spec, but there's really very little punishment for making errors. You can roll your face across the keyboard and probably do within about 85% of the DPS of somebody who's really working really hard. And that's not true for every spec. And it is. And
Nope.
I mean, and we said that with gear earlier too. Like all of the secondary stats are so close together that it's like, oh, we put so much effort into figuring out which one is the best. But you can pretty much just like close your eyes and throw a dart at the gems that you're buying, as long as they're the appropriate secondary gems.
Yeah.
I know it's true. I mean, there needs to be a little bit more penalty for, I think, doing it wrong. Like not a terrible penalty that makes people not want to play if they mess up, but a bit more of a space between the best and the worst.
Blizzard said that they generally wanna not dumb down, they wanna remove some abilities from most of the classes to make it more simple or something. So yeah, if they actually succeed on making the rotation actually have a penalty if you do something wrong on Reds, it would be awesome. Yeah, because warriors have a pretty strange rotation. Decay is the same, so ours, yeah, sometimes, I'm sad that I say that, but yeah, sometimes you can just mess up your rotation and just do a bit less DPS and that's it, so yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of how... Enhancement is similar, but since we have a pretty strict priority list, if you do pick wrong things, that sometimes you can just literally lose damage. But we also have like 7 freaking buttons. So, I mean, sometimes you just pick the wrong thing, you do less damage. So, but overall, you can just kind of face roll. So, but...
Anyway, before you close out the show, I want to make sure that I give a shout out to the MMOC thread where Anaxi reigns supreme, because
When he's not banned.
Hey, yeah, when he's not banned, because I just want to make sure that that I actually have spent a lot of time looking for Retribution theory crafting, because the prot community is really loud and very easy to find on main Tankadin. But when I went looking for Rets, I couldn't find them for a while, and I realized it was because I was looking in the wrong places. So all of the threads on the Paladin forums and MMOC are great, and people should go there. It's not nearly as bad as the rest of MMOC. Well, it's maybe 50% as bad. Yeah.
Chat brings up to make Guardian better, he needs some voice acting, so he needs lines like this.
I need orders,
Or like this.
sire.
You'll hear it in the VOD. I have the Paladin soundboard up from Warcraft 2. It sounds so cool. But yeah, I guess I'll give you guys a little bit of time to soapbox real quick, some closing remarks about some guys have any tips or tricks or hints, suggestions, little nuggets for the community? Bear, what about you? Anything we didn't talk about?
As a Paladin or Retribution Paladin, don't focus too much on... well, obviously, do your DPS, but you're not... there's an age-old joke that you don't bring Ret Paladins to raids for DPS, which is... It's kind of true and kind of not true, so when I see people on MMO Champion in particular that says Ret needs a huge buff because they're weak and everything. That's true, but Ret's strong because of other reasons. So try to work with the tools you have. And I guess it's a very big thing that raid leaders or guilds don't value utility enough. So that's kind of where Ret stands. We're strong in utility, and then kind of weak in DPS.
Fair enough. So it's a mentality thing, which you talked at the beginning of the show too. It's a mentality thing. Okay. And Morgeine, what you got for them?
As Bear said, if you really want to play Ret Paladin, focus more on the utility role. Don't mind so much about DPS. If you want to play a pure DPS class, go play one, because Retri is not that. So if you want to really play Ret Paladin, focus on the utility role of Paladin. And apart from that, can I suggest for add-ons or something?
Sure, this is your time.
Yeah, go ahead. Suggest some add-ons.
I would totally suggest on every one of you using weak average or power average, setting them up, read a small guide. There's many out there. It will really help you long term to track things and improve yourself generally. And I would also suggest, if you want to really go down that utility path, get a raid frame add-on, a proper raid frame add-on, set it up so you can track people's debuffs in important fights and track forbearance. So you actually help the raid with your Hand of Protection, Hand of Salvation, etc.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I think that goes
I'll
along...
say this.
Oh, go ahead.
Especially in progress, right? People are learning to fight. People are dying or taking a lot of unnecessary damage. In those situations, Ret Paladins are really, really good, or Paladins in general, because you can throw out a heal, a lay on hands, and something that so you can actually recover a fight or a try that would end up in a wipe, and you can actually learn faster or learn more per pull.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing that people don't really value enough, I feel.
You should really pay attention to that. So you can you should really pay attention on how you track your hands, and you should actually, if you are not already doing it, you should start using them on your raid generally. Your lay on hand, your hands, your hand of protection, and the other stuff. And a proper setup raid frame will help you with that a lot. At least it did with me when I did it.
Yeah, but it sounds like though there's like a skill cap involved there, which you are impressing upon your community, because if you can do your damage where you are meant to be, as good as your gear is, and save people's lives and reduce raid damage, all this
then
kind
you're
of stuff,
doing your job.
Then you're doing your job. If you're just doing damage and not saving anybody, what are you doing there?
Then that's not Paladin for me. The Ret Paladin at least,
And I know, this sounds like a lot of stuff that we think is really obvious because we've been playing at the level where we play, where it's expected that you use your utility. But I think for a lot of Paladins, and maybe a lot of people watching the show who are really interested in the spec, they're not as used to using those spells, and they want to be able to use them more. And I would say that I recommend, first of all, setting up either a mouse over situation or a click situation where you can cast them very easily on raid frames. Either mouse over or click. I prefer mouse over, but a lot of people like click better. And then maybe just the next time that you raid, thinking, I want to use my lay on hands every single attempt that we do. Even if you use it in really stupid situations and you lay on hands someone for like 10% of their health, you used it and it gets you into the muscle memory and the habit of using that spell.
And you do it all the time.
Stack. Yeah, and then you do it more often. And it's so much better to use it and die and have it be on cooldown than to go weeks and weeks and weeks and be like, oh, I have this cool utility spell that I've never used. And but people but like I don't mean to make fun of these people, because people do this. They have these cool spells and it's just not a muscle memory keybind for them.
Yeah.
So do that. Just like go through your raid and be like, I want to use lay on hands on every single pull that we do tonight, and then just do that. And I think that that would be really good.
Long term, it will make you a lot better.
Yeah.
And, yeah. That's it.
It's a big mentality thing in the end.
Yep.
Yeah, you just need to tell yourself like, and it's the same thing with personal CDs. Like I think almost every player can benefit from being like, I am not going to die with my personal CD off CD. Like I want it to be on CD. And even if you're using it at dumb times, and then you're like, man, I didn't have it up for this attack, and I really needed my personal CD up for this attack. Well, change it next pull. At least you died with it on CD, and just use it all of the time. Err on the side of using it too often.
Yeah. Oh. Very awesome.
That's my recommendation for the Rets out there.
That's the recommendation, and that is button time. So thank you guys very much. This is an awesome show. Again, as normal, we are here every week. 1 p.m. PST, 4 EST, and 10 CET. I actually had to make sure that's still there because we are... And now would it be... Now would it still be 10, I would imagine? Yeah. I have no idea. I'm a little lost. The only thing is I lost an hour of my life, alright? Shush! But a Ret Paladin episode 32. That's going to be it for us. Morgeine from Envy, thank you very much for being here. Sir, you can go check him out on the Twitters at Morgeine_Envy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yep.
It was fun.
It was awesome. Hopefully we did Anexi proud.
And sorry for my bad cam. I couldn't help it. I thought it would be better.
No.
Sorry to the viewers.
It's okay. You got a little bit of the Roger Brown going on. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
We'll just call it a grease thing.
Yeah.
It's totally a grease thing. We have problems with mics, with headsets, and with cameras, it seems, so yeah.
Yeah, you do. And then Bear from Ninth Order, you can go follow more about Ninth Order and their exploits going into Warlords of Draenor over at Ninth, the number, thorder.com. Thank you for being on the show, sir. It was awesome.
Thank you for having me. Shout out to Anexi who didn't check his email.
Oh, the shots. Oh, and then of course, our lovely co-host Anafielle on the Twitters at Anafielle.
Yep. Always, you can find me there. Sometimes streaming these days, so you'll just have to watch and see if you catch me.
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes.
On rare occasions.
Yes. And then of course, there's me. You'll find me over on Twitch at BayTLM outside of the show, streaming either World of Warcraft or Mass Effect or who knows what else. I have no idea what I'm doing lately. It's farm time. It's so weird not having the same schedule. But we'll see you guys next week for... We're doing Guardian Druids next week.
Hell yeah.
We're gonna have Ariel and Buran on the show. So Ariel and Buran will be here to talk about Guardian Druids. That's our last tanking class until we revisit Front Warriors. Yeah. We'll get there. So we'll see you guys next week for episode 32, right here on FinalBossTV. Have a great one. Trust in the coin. Have a great reset. If you have questions, stick around for the after show. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. If you're watching on YouTube, though, you have to wait a couple days. We'll see you guys a little bit. Have a great one. Bye-bye. Bye.
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 See ya.